Welcome to Two Baptists and That Amish Chick, a podcast brought to you by the Butter Churn Girls. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Bethany.
And I'm Berlin. Join us for candid conversations about organized religion, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how we broke free from it while holding on to our faith in God.
In these candid conversations, you can expect to laugh, to relate, occasionally cry, and definitely hear a few cuss words.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and follow at the Butter Churn Girls on all socials. Now for this week's episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be interviewing, per se, Bethany to hear about the defining moments that happened, especially around her teen years, because I feel like those are big years for all of us, right? That's kind of where we really decide which direction we're going to go and who we are going to become. And so we're going to dive into asking her some questions and just hear about some of the things in her Amish life of
Stealing hay.
Stealing hay. Like the things that were defining moments for deciding to shift her faith, not shift her faith in certain things, whatever it may be. So yeah, what would you say are like some of the moments that pop up in your memory where you're like, this was an important thing that when I think of my teenage years, like this pops up on the fact that I made shifts in my faith and like what I decided to believe. What would those be?
A lot of my teenage years a lot of it was me not satisfied with where I was at. I just wasn't happy, period. And I think that came from the time I would say by the time I was 15, I had really started, that was really the start of me really questioning what I was brought up in. Like, is this actually the truth? Do I actually believe this? Like, I don't know if because that's when I really started seeing the inconsistencies in what was being taught in church, because that was the time that I like got baptized. And I went through, in the Amish church, they have this class that's like 6 or 8 weeks long before you get baptized, and they take you through this book. And it's like, it's not super thick book, but you go through it every Sunday. So like there's Sunday and then there's Sunday school. And so on Sundays, there's no Sunday school. There's just preaching and that's all. Like there's no, nobody breaks up for classes or whatever in Sunday school. And it just swaps off like every other Sunday is Sunday school. And then every other one is just regular Sunday where it's just preaching and that's all. So on the Sunday school, Sundays, a lot of Sundays, the youth go off into, their class, and the young kids go off into their class, and the adults go off in their class, and they all have like where they study the Bible or they go through their curriculum they're going through. And on the Sundays before that weren't Sunday school, the regular ones, and they call it the instruction class. So like the class that was being instructed on, the church and what you believe, and this is the foundation of our faith and all of this. You had to go through the instruction class before you got baptized. So that was 6 to 8 weeks of every Sunday you would like sing the hymns, and it was like super slow singing, like really, really slow. So slow that it was like a herd of turtles, like
Forget the words by the time you get to the next.
Yeah, like literally. And you like fall asleep. Yeah. And so on those Sundays, it was like we'd sing like 3 songs. And then the instruction class, the ministers and the deacons and all the preachers who sat on the front row before the song started. This wasn't after the songs ended. This was before, just as the songs were being sung, they would get up and leave. And then the whole instruction class, whoever was in that class, would get up and leave like with them. And that was while the congregation was singing, we were being instructed in a different room on like what we were supposed to know and believe before we got baptized.
Wow.
And that was the first time I was like, I remember asking my one of my cousins who actually left the Amish messaged me on like Facebook or whatever a couple of years after I left and was like, I remember you asking this question in instruction class. And I remember thinking you were so brave to ask that question. Because I asked the question in the instruction class. I said, can I just be baptized because I believe in God and not join the church? Like, I don't know that I want to join the church right now, but I know that I love Jesus and I want to be baptized. And they said, no, you can't. Because the Bible says that if you have to be a member of a body when you believe in Jesus. I'm like, doesn't believe in Jesus automatically make me a member of a body? Like, I don't have to do anything else.
That's
like,
true.
There's no, in the Bible, it doesn't say you have to join a church. It says a body of believers. Like, you've literally made that into being church to, like manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they told me like, no, you can't, I was like, oh, okay, I see how it is. Like, everything, I was so mad, but I couldn't tell anybody because like, couldn't tell my mom or my dad. My dad wasn't really in my life. Like, he was gone most of my teenage years. And so I just remember thinking, well, you know what? Wait until I'm 21. That's literally, I was thinking, I'll be a part of I'll play along.
Man, if only you had known that it was 18 over here.
Right? Like,
you could have just left and done what you wanted then.
Yeah. But in that culture, there's only, you're not allowed to, you're not considered an adult until you're 21.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember like, okay, fine. I went along with it. And then being a member of the church made it even harder. Like, I felt like it felt like the reins were just drawn tighter, like, was another notch to like rein me in. And I was like, everything in me as a teenager just rebelled at that thought, because I just wanted to be free. I wanted to be able to like decide what I think, what I believe. And then that's when I really started like reading books that were like Jackie Chan books, The Heavenly Man. Have you heard of? It's not the guy's. I know Jackie Chan is considered. He's in a movie. Like, that's okay. Like, there's a. I think his name is Jackie Chan. Yeah, Francis Chan. Thank you.
I'm like, Jackie Chan has books. I know. I'm like, I'm wildly confused.
Sorry, Francis.
I was
same
like,
last
I gotta
name.
go look this up. I know. I was like,
No.
and those are the books you chose. How did you find them? And I'm like, how did Jackie Chan mean anything to you?
He represented freedom. I mean,
It taught me how to
Stealth.
wax.
Wax off. He told me how to wax a car. No,
Mr. Miyagi.
No, it was Francis Chan.
Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me.
We're both just like, if you guys are listening to audio, you should have seen my
Yeah,
nose,
they were
just
like,
stare at her
what?
like, I don't want to say you're
I was,
wrong
like,
because
trying to
maybe
be
you're not.
supportive, but I was like, I don't know that that's it.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Francis Chan.
Yeah. Like, do you know his books, like The
Yes.
Heavenly Man, and like the crazy stuff? And I started reading all these books on just supernatural things that people experienced. And I was like, because I was so hungry for the supernatural in that area of in that point in my life, being 15, 16, like 17, and just, because I loved that so much. And I saw other people experience it through books. I was like, why are we not experiencing this? Why? That's when I really started questioning what I was taught, because it just didn't mix. I was like, how can there be two separate worlds?
Yeah. Was that allowed? I'm curious. Was that allowed for you to read those books, or was it like you were something doing? Okay.
Yeah, actually, that was allowed to read those books. I was allowed to read a lot of books that, looking back, would have taught me very different things than what I was taught in the culture. And I just began to question, like, I was like, I just don't know that I believe that. And now that I think about it, a lot of these conversations I really didn't fully have with even my friends. I mean, even my friends saw the inconsistencies, and we talked about like how like awful it was to be stuck here. But we never really had those in-depth discussions about really like our view on God, and is what we're taught about God actually true? Like, we never actually went there. Now that I think about it, we just talked about all the problems. We never actually talked about the root causes, And so I mean, my brother had a library upstairs in our house. And so like, there was a whole bedroom that was just turned into a library. I mean, there was just shelves of books and books and books. And like, he loved old books, like really, really old books. And there was lots of new books too. So like, I was well read because I would read, and I loved reading. And that's where I think I saw that the world was so much bigger, was my love of reading took me into worlds that weren't like mine. I saw that there's people who live very different lifestyles and very different ways. And it started making me, and people who had even more experiences with God in those worlds than I did. Like, I didn't have those experiences and they were having, I was like, so what's missing? Because if I'm a Christian, I should be having these same experiences. Why am I not? And I didn't realize at the time, but it was all the rules. Well, I had a feeling at the time. I was like, we literally don't give God a chance. We don't give him a chance. He's put in a box before he's ever even like let out of anything. And so that's really where it started for me. Like the questioning and the keeping a lot of it to myself. I mean, the only person I really talked to was my sister Amelia, who had already left. She had left and wasn't Mennonite or Amish. Like, she just left everything. And so that's where like reading those books gave me a hunger for more. Like, it just like fed the hunger, and like I just kept getting hungrier and hungrier, and like kept looking like even further, and it just like.
Did you almost have this like sneaky feeling of like walking in your house, like, I know something all these guys don't know?
Yes.
And they don't know, then I'm about to go get all this magical stuff when I'm 21. Like, did you feel like that's what I imagine?
That's I literally felt like I was surrounded by people, because I was never alone physically, but in my mind I was, because I was like, I know all these things, and I bet you that everybody else in this room right now is like has never actually allowed themselves to think about these things, or allow themselves. I'm pretty sure everybody probably at one point thought about, but probably just shut it down.
And the fear shut it down.
Yeah, the fear shut it down. And so there was a lot of times that I was like, I know stuff y'all don't even know, because you're too scared. Like, that's literally, I was like, you're too scared to go there. Like, you've never allowed yourself to think of, question anything. And if you've questioned it, it's been shut down. And you haven't had, and I started feeling pity for the people around me, because I was like, you're weak. That's literally what I was like, you're just weak. Like, I don't know what else to say. You've been crippled, and you've never actually confronted your bullies. Like, you've never confronted the bully of like religion and fear and, religion, which is man-made, ways of getting to God. And I'm pretty sure there's times that I felt superior, I know I did. And which, looking back, I wasn't. I was just, maybe a little braver than the rest of them.
I think in our teen years, we all have those moments where we feel superior. So
a little snooty.
I think it's when they say like that they're know-it-alls, but I think it's just a journey we go through.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, personally, I think there's a pieces of confidence building of being able to step out on your own, because that's needed.
Yeah.
Right. They say rebellious teenagers, but
they actually need that confidence.
The rebellious teenager to come into who you are, in order to discover what you believe, what you know, the kind of life you want versus what's been taught to you. Whether it be like, oh, I'm living something that's cult-like, or just like, my parents want me to have this job and I don't want to. I want to do something like, it could be like, something like that. So I think that's something that we all, like a journey we all kind of have to go through.
Yeah. And I think that teenagers have that courage, that crazy courage, that like, okay, you're a little too full of yourself courage, so that they take those steps. If teenagers wouldn't have that period in their life, they wouldn't try the things and actually learn. Like,
it's true.
I know it looks arrogant and it looks, full of yourself or whatever when teenagers act that way, but think of it as like they're getting an extra shot of courage to actually go do the things so that they can learn.
It's true.
If they wouldn't be reckless, if they wouldn't have that reckless courage, they probably would never try those things, and then they wouldn't learn, And I'm not like meaning that teenagers have to go off the deep end and just do wild, crazy shit that like, I'm just saying, let teenagers be teenagers and don't try to stifle that, because that's the way they're going to learn. Like, you can tell them all day long, but sometimes they just need a good old fashioned, like, trial and error.
Yeah. Well, that even reminds me of how you've mentioned in previous episodes where you're like, I knew when I left the Amish, I could always come back. But that's how teenagers feel. They're like, I'm going to try this thing.
Yeah.
I can always go back to the way I was, but I don't know if didn't try this. Like,
what if we took that attitude and adopted it even now?
Yeah.
Like, how much more fearless would we be as adults if we took that and, I mean, took it with obviously with what we know now, but have that, like, if I mess up, I can always come back. It's not like it's the end of the world.
Right.
I just thought of that, and that actually just helped me with something I'm going through right now.
That's what I was thinking. I know this is pieces of your life, and I was like, is she preaching to herself on some things?
I think I am. Like, that's crazy. Like, let your life preach to you or teach you, you know? Because I literally, like, if we had that view as adults, how limitless would we be, and how much faster would we move on things? Because there's no fear, because you can always go back. Like, you can always, like, okay, that was okay, let me just go back, and okay, that wasn't for me, right? Like, having that flexibility and that ability to be fearless. And I don't think fearless is like lack of fear. I think it's like addressing the fear, being like, okay, I know I'm scared, and this is why. Now let me, like, push through it and realize what's on the other side of that fear, and turn it into excitement. Like, I've heard that, you know, fear is just excitement without breath. So if you breathe, it turns into excitement.
Fear is just excitement without breath. I've heard, my husband always says, he says, like, it's actually the same feeling. It's just how you're thinking about it. Your body responds the same way.
Yeah.
You get the same
that's what they
flutters,
say.
you get the same nervousness, the same.
That's what, when they said that, I was literally, they did a study on fear and excitement, like what your body goes through. And it's the exact same. You go through the same chemistry changes, whatever, but it's just a lack. The only thing that's missing is breath. So if you just breathe, you can turn fear into excitement.
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome.
I know. I'm like,
and like, I was like, that takes me back to, like, my childhood. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I'm like, there's that one time
that I should have breathed.
Like, how different would that have been? My whole childhood. How would it have been?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Are there other moments that you think were defining in, like, your deconstruction and shifting, or do you feel like it was like that? Like, it sounds like it was almost like just this journey of learning more continuously, but were there other, like, moments that just kind of pop into your mind where, like, this was a big moment or situation that happened?
Yeah, a big moment for me. It was a journey. It was a, like, unfolding. It wasn't a lot of big, like, shook my world, like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, it was like a journey of and looking back, I'm so thankful, like, God knew. He knew that I needed that, you know, that he can't just rip everything off, because then I would probably, like, not turn the fear into excitement.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be in a corner somewhere.
It wouldn't be
like,
a breath.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I remember one time when, really, like, kind of in the middle of my journey, probably when I was like 19 or 20, I was really, like, searching out things in scripture and the Bible, because, you know, you're in the Amish, you're taught that the Bible is the word of God. Like, that is the only way you can get to know God. If you stray outside of the Bible, you are going outside of God's will. There's nothing safe outside of the Bible. It's the only way to get to God. It's the way you stay with God. You have to stay, you know, stay in the word, read it daily, memorize it. But then they only take certain scriptures to, like, justify.
I always wonder why you got to read it daily if you're memorizing it too. Because we were supposed to read it daily and memorize it too. I was like, I'm confused. No one tells me to practice math daily. I memorized that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a very valid question. Yeah. It was exhausting, honestly. And I remember when I started really actively, you know, I made the decision to I did a lot of experiments with my faith. Like undercover,
like putting a fleece out, sort of thing.
Yeah, like, just I realize now, I realize that experiments were the places that the biggest things happened for me, that made the fastest shifts and, like, deconstruction of religion in my life. Because I wasn't looking to deconstruct faith, I was looking to deconstruct, like, the lies, you know, and keep the truth. And so one of the experiments I did was, like, sitting on my bed and just opening my Bible and actively clearing my mind of the way I had been taught to read the Bible. Like, I'm just going to read these verses until, like, as if
Like
I've
it's
never
brand
read them.
new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let anything. And like, I remember a few times the verses like looked like they were coming off the pages. And I've never experienced that before. Like, it just looked like it was coming out. And I was like, this is crazy. I've never had that. I don't know if and I would like blink and it would go away. And, like, I'd be like, okay, maybe that was just my imagination. Like, I had to learn I had to choose to partner with what I was seeing that was blowing my mind for it to even expand more. Yeah. And I realized that I was like, oh, you have to actually choose what you're going to like give your attention to and trust. I would always tell myself, like, if I believe that God is actually guiding me and he's big enough to do that, then why would I be scared of something? Even as an Amish kid, I was telling myself that, like, if I actually believe that he's big enough and I have to practice, I would tell myself, I have to practice what I preach. I'm telling people that they treat God like a little God. Is God really as big as you think he is? And I have to if I tell the people that, I have to do the same thing. And so one of those was actively clearing my mind and reading the Bible and realizing suddenly that a lot of things I was taught wasn't making sense. Like, this culture that I'm taught isn't actually matching up with the Bible. The Bible is so holy. Like, why are we, and there's more than one way to look at something. Like, God's word isn't like, we're
She's
putting
like,
God in a box.
Wait, we can't show our ankles, but they were washing each other's feet? How did that work?
How do you wash an ankle without seeing it?
Close your eyes. We actually did wash feet.
It's not ankles?
Mm-hmm. And ankles too.
Huh, interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
In like we call it grossmeat, but it was basically the twice a year communion we did. Like communion, and like they went through the whole Bible, and like we washed feet and we did the whole thing.
The whole Bible? How, like,
the like timeline, the story.
Oh,
of
okay.
Jesus,
I was like, wait, tell me, like, what were they doing?
like
for days and days.
They like literally read like portions of scripture that like basically taught that Jesus is like throughout the whole Bible, which was kind of cool.
I mean,
but we got there at 9
story.
a.m. and we didn't leave until 4 or 5 a.m.
4 or 5 a.m.
PM. Sorry.
Oh, I was going, damn. Like, I'd have checked out about noon 30 and been like, I'm out.
Need a snack.
Yeah, no, we stopped for lunch and everybody packed their own lunch.
I was gonna say, no, that was what communion was. You get a snack.
Yeah.
Jesus can't sustain you. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. I don't think that's Amish been taken it that far. Maybe they would have. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I started asking my mom, like, Mom, why do we believe these things? It's not in the Bible. Look, you can see right here. It's directly contradicts it. And she would, and I remember the first time she looked at it and she we had a conversation and she's like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I see your point. And she's like, it's just because it's always been done this way. Like, we've just always done it this way. And I was like, so you're telling me that somebody introduced an idea and everybody hopped on the train and nobody knows why we cut off the end of the ham. Have you heard that story?
Yes. I feel like you need to share it now, though, for those who haven't.
So the story is that this girl, like, her mom cut off the end of the ham when she prepared it for Thanksgiving or whatever. And even though she put it in a big pan, right? Like a huge roaster, but she'd always cut off the end of the ham. Didn't need to, like, there was no restrictions or anything. She was like, Mom, why do we always? And so she started doing it when she got married or whatever, old enough to bake a ham. I don't know what
when you reach ham bacon age.
That's about 10 in the Amish culture.
Yeah, I haven't made it there yet.
And so she went back, and so somebody asked her, I think it was maybe her daughter or somebody was like, Mom, why did you cut off the end of the ham? She's like, I've never thought about that. I don't know. So she asks her mom, and her mom's like, well, my mom always did it this way. So she asked her grandma, and come to find out, it was either her grandma or her great grandma that the reason the whole cutting off the end of the ham started is because she had too small of a pan.
There just wasn't room.
And there wasn't room. And they took it and made it into this is how you bake a ham.
So funny.
Like, as ridiculous as that sounds, that is what happened for me.
But how often does that happen in the church?
Exactly.
In
Yeah.
life in general.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you can't change it because now it's set in stone. I'm like, is it really though? It's not set in stone. You can change your mind at any point. At any point you decided, at one point somebody decided to change this and just insert their belief in here. So why can't we just insert a belief at any point we want to? Like they could, why can't we? You know? And so that's when I was like, well, shit. A lot of like, we've just been doing this because we've always done it this way. This is I can't build my life on this. And that just really like gave me permission to just go all out on like deconstructing the religion.
Yeah. It's like there's been a quote going around a lot about tradition is just dead people's rules that we continue to follow.
Yeah.
And I'm
like, yeah, it's literally dead
How
people
true.
who've made a rule and we're still following them.
And we have no idea why.
Yeah.
Like,
And we usually hate them.
right.
They don't bring us joy or peace or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about
So
it, it's not
crazy.
really like anything that really you love to do, but you just do it because you've always done it.
And if it
We
doesn't bring
still
peace
think
and joy,
we
it's
have
not
to cook
God.
ham
Yeah.
because it's Christmas. Do you? Or can you make tacos?
Yeah.
Here for it. I'm here for it.
Yes.
I mean, we do Mexican a lot. Christmas. I mean,
Yeah.
that was always that was one of our traditions. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, but that was good. Like, I think Jesus approves of the salsa.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. You like
He's
salsa?
fine.
Yeah. Well, and who said you have to bake a turkey at Thanksgiving? Why can't you make filet or like,
I think we did. My husband
What
and I
do
did
you
biscuits
like?
and gravy.
what do you like?
Yeah.
We did biscuits and gravy.
Yeah. Like it's such a, when you start to really intentionally like, why do I do what I do? Where did this come from? Why did I start
And
it?
do I want to do it anymore?
And do I want to do it? Yeah.
Does it bring me joy? Does it bring me peace?
Yeah. And that's really where the whole just kind of, I just like, okay, well, we're gonna put everything to the test now. Like everything. So that's really where it started for me. And I didn't tell my mom.
Yeah.
Because like she would have been really hard on her to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard on her anyway that I left, but yeah, it would have been hard on her to know that I was questioning. And she knew, I think she kind of knew that I was questioning.
Moms know.
Yeah. But we didn't really ever talk about it because she knew I probably wouldn't.
But do you think there was a level, like a part of her that was like, man, I wish I would have been brave enough to do that too?
I like to believe so. And I know a lot of people even told me like your mom like wished she could have done the same thing. And I'm like, it sure didn't look like it though. You know, like the way I was treated was not, wow, I'm so proud of you. Like, I wish I could have done what you did.
She may not have known how to express it though either.
Yeah.
I mean, when that's everyone around her is living like that and has always lived like that. And, you know, she wouldn't have heard that from her parents. Like,
right.
That can be hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hard to just see my mom even like, you know, all I saw was a woman who'd spent 60 some years of her life in something because it was comfortable and safe. And I just looked at her. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be you. I do not want to repeat the same thing just because we've got like, I just wanted to puke on my shoes. And I thought about like, if I perpetuate this cycle, if I just keep like, what am I going to tell my kids?
Because they're going to have the same questions.
They're going to have the same questions. Like, I won't be able to answer them.
Especially at that point.
Or just say, I had the same question and I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like I tested and I realized it wasn't true, but I just came back and kept doing it.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, I don't want to waste my life. That was my biggest fear, is wasting my life. And it felt like I was wasting my life.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
So
what would you say? Here's the big question. You go back to 15, 16, 17, whatever age you want to choose, your Bethany. What would you say to her?
I'm really proud of you. I know you think you're alone, but I want you to know that you hear God better than you think you do. And you know more than you think you do. And the people around you just don't understand because they're scared. But you're the bravest person in the room right now. And one day they'll know.
Wow.
And don't ever let anyone tell you that what you hear isn't the truth. Yeah. And those preachers that you see every Sunday morning, they're living this because they were told this was the truth. They're not the ultimate, like, you hear God just as well as they do.
Yeah.
You can get up and preach just as much as they can. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're less.
Yeah. Mm.
You're just as valuable as every single person, every single man in this room. Because that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think she'd be really proud of me. Like, I don't think she knew how far we'd come in such a short amount of time. You know, like, she didn't know, but she was hopeful.
Yeah.
And that hope, another thing I tell her is, like, that hope you have of a better life, it's coming. Just hang in there and keep doing what you're doing, because it's coming. It's on the other side of all this really hard stuff. Yeah.
That's so good. I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of
me too.
15-year-old Bethany too.
Yeah, I am too. I think sometimes, like, the strength that it takes as a teenager to make some of those decisions. Like, you guys know those hard decisions.
I don't think anyone, like, I think adults put, let me change that. I don't think we understand the weight of those decisions we make as a teenager that look or seem foolish to an adult. Like, you were making those same decisions or wish you did. Like, don't cut them down. Like, don't cut their legs out from under them because they're wanting to, like, make this choice or try this thing. Go do it. And, like, hey, I'm your safety net if you need it.
That's the thing. Most teenagers just need a safety net. They just need to know, like, I will have a safety net if this all goes to pot.
What's the
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
sounds bad, but I'm like, what's the point of parenthood during the teenage years if it's not that?
It's a good question.
Like, I know that's a bold statement, but, like, isn't your job to raise adults, not raise kids, raise adults that can function in the world, right? Like, is that what you're doing? Like, is that what your teenagers are getting? Real world experience where they can mess up and still be okay.
Yes.
So they don't mess up and, like, end up in serious shit later, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to make. Like, if you haven't listened to the other episodes, we did an episode where I was interviewed, where Leslie was interviewed, where it was kind of similar questions. And I think that's a good point to make. Like, they're in the season as teenagers where you're transitioning from, I'm a child who doesn't make any of their own decisions, to I have to choose who I'm becoming and figure out who I'm becoming. And as a whole, majority of people are not going to end up in prison. Like, let's just be real. Like, because that's what people are like, I'm just trying to raise kids that aren't in prison. Majority of them aren't, right?
Yeah.
And if you're intentionally thinking, I don't make it end up in prison, chances are they're not going to, because you're a present, loving parent. And so I think that's the big thing, is, like, realizing that these are defining moments that are going to help your teenager decide who they're becoming, what they're going to believe. And this isn't a time to latch on and make sure they know what they're believing. Like, that time's past. Like, if you had things you want them to believe, like, up until about age 5 is about when, like, your core beliefs of a child is built. So, like, you're late on that. Okay. Like, you're late. Good luck. But, like, this is the time when they need to know that you are safe. They need to know that you are present. They need to know that you're, like, there if you need them, because they are going to try things and they need to. They need to do those things when it is still safe.
Yeah.
Right. They need to not wait until they are mid-20s, 30s to be like, all right, I'm going to take a leap that could be unsafe, dangerous, get me arrested. Like, they need to have, like, that place to fall back on, and know that, like, that love that you pour into them and giving them that freedom to do that, that's actually what's going to draw them more towards you and make it more attractive. Because I think it would have been completely different if Bethany's mom would have been like, I don't know why, and I had those same thoughts.
Yeah.
And I didn't seek them out. Keep looking, because you may find something. Like, it would have been a completely different thing.
I might have never left.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Like, for real. I might have never left.
because you would have felt like there was a safer space
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Like, oh, I get to try things. My mom has my back. Okay.
It wouldn't have been the urgency to leave.
No,
maybe.
No, it
Yeah.
wouldn't. The urgency wouldn't have been there to leave as quickly as I did.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I'm like, that's my first, like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have left as fast. That's really interesting.
That's intriguing. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like triggered probably a whole nother podcast topic for us now.
Yep.
Now we're like talking about this. So like, should we record another one right after this? While we're on this train of thought. But Bethany, thank you for sharing. Thank you for not being Amish so that we had the opportunity to meet you and do a podcast with you.
I'm really glad that I'm not Amish and met you guys.
I'm glad that we were able to meet you on the internet from across the state and
it's true. And then now we're
our
here.
country at the time that we met you.
Yeah.
So you guys, if you haven't caught the one from Leslie and I here about our past, our teenage years that are very different, go check them out. Of course, there's tons of other episodes too that we've done. But thank you for listening. Make sure that you like, subscribe, turn notification bells, all the things on all the social media platforms. We are everywhere saying all the things with lots of funny and fun clips and stuff as well. So follow us on social media because you get to see our blooper clips. Okay.
Yeah,
go to TikTok, go to Facebook, go to Instagram. That's where blooper clips and stuff, fun stuff is too. So follow us there and you get to just like hang with us outside of these serious topics. But we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye guys.
See ya.